Alrighty, here we go, guys. Thanks for joining on this lovely Sunday. We are going to go over the art of the perfect short. I do believe this was the perfect short. So we're going to be looking at cores. So you got yourself a classic double top. And I mean, when I say classic, like this is just insane. Like if you were to flip this around, let's flip it around real quick. Let's put our bull brains on invert scale. You got a perfect double bottom, right? Um, I know some people will say it's ridiculous to flip things around, but most of us tend to be bulls. Things go up. So if you are planning on shorting anything, if you're planning on buying puts on anything, and I'll talk about some strategies that I have felt have worked when it comes to options trading and shorting. Um, for the record, I don't short as much as I should, and it would be hard for me to back this up with all the trades I take, but hopefully there's a little bit of trust in this community. And I want to say, as far as going green, taking profits, when it comes to shorting, I am highly confident that I have a 100% win rate. And it's because I think it comes down a little bit to I would never short anything unless it was the perfect short. And so when I say I'm not shorting as much as I should be, there are a lot of things that I see where I'm like, oh man, that's a short. That's a short play. And I'm just like, all right, moving on, let's look for some bullish plays. But in reality, you can take some long plays and some short plays. And the great thing about that is if a lot of these things are, high beta or whatever you want to call them, if the market does come down, it acts as a great hedge. Sometimes we buy SPY puts to hedge, and SPY could grind up while your plays go down. That's one of the worst feelings ever. So let's jump into it. So you got a classic double top. I mean, basically pretty much to the penny to the pixel. I'm using my OBVWAP indicator, which has order blocks, but let's say there's that one that I recommend, which I also made a new one that I can share that's almost identical to this one. But if you were to have used this as well, actually that wouldn't have told you the full story. What I like about my OBVWAP, I think it's a bit of a flaw that ended up working out. It kind of keeps these order blocks on here, and it almost makes it seem like you go all the way back and you're like, well, where does that order block come from? And it doesn't come from anywhere. It actually just came from here, right? And then it creates like this zone. So I decided not to fix it because I think it's been acting pretty cool. I can go through a bunch of charts and actually show that. But it kind of shows it's like a giant resistance level. Just real quick, I want to see what the one that I love. Yeah, so the order block would have come in here for what I consider the GOAT of order block indicators. Which, by the way, you can play order blocks. You can play order blocks. I think I was talking to Anthony once, and he was like, hey, I'd noticed when you put your order block indicators up, aren't those incredible buy signals? The thing is, it gets repainted, right? So let's say you were taking a long on cores here, the order block would have come up. And so, yes, you can play it in the sense that if it comes back down, of course you can play it, right, as a bounce. But even when it pops up, that means something has happened, right? And so there's a bullish order block being placed. If you notice, when these bullish order blocks get placed, like stocks tend to run. So yes, technically you could actually see it as a signal where if the bullish order block comes up below, a lot of these stocks tend to run. When the bearish order block comes in, I want to say that this bearish order block came in somewhere around here. So you still had time. Let's say it came in around here because it was determined that it kind of breached some swing low, and so officially it became a bearish order block, right? So yes, the very fact that this popped up, yes, you can play that, but let's talk about the perfect short. So cool, we have some more people here. All right. Yeah, I mean, straightforward, right? But I'm gonna take you through the actual journey. So the journey would be, you got top number one, it came down. Sure, if you would have shorted here, you know, you're a genius. How would you have known that? I'm not really sure. But this is how you play it, right? Now, by the time cores got up here, you could have said, let me watch out for a double top, because this is so perfectly V-shaped, right? And something to look out for in a double top. Stock has to be running hot, right? Like, you know, this could have been a double top at the time. It never played out, right? So if you use an indicator, this is part of it, kind of skipping ahead. So this is my TPTF MA, right? That 2-pole one. Let's grab any other one real quick. Let's grab like, well, no. I've been messing around with some basic ones actually. Let's grab like a, let's grab a 34 EMA. A little too slow. 21 EMA. I have a million 21 EMA indicators, but I'm just using this basic one for now. So let's say you would have gotten that double top. You never really had the breach. Actually, you had a bounce on the 21 EMA. This is what I'm getting at here, guys. You could have been shorting a lot of these moves, but they're not the perfect short. This is the perfect short. Perfect short is you have a clearly defined double top. You still don't short up here. You could high opportunity short in the same way that if you would have inverted this, right? How many of us play the double bottom and say, oh, this looks so good, I'm going to catch it on the second bottom. So yes, you could have shorted in the same way you could have longed, right? If it was inverted. But that's not the perfect short. Perfect short is, all right, I'm going to wait to see what it does when it gets to these indicators, whether it be the blue line 21 EMA or, in my opinion, the more defined TPTF EMA. It's going to be a million things here that you could use. You want to be strategic. So this is what's interesting. We actually came down to the Ichimoku cloud. We'll get into that later. Let's see what other things we could find. We have a break here on SRSI. You have bearish, massive bearish divergence. As a matter of fact, I want to go ahead and say this was already the perfect short, because you have massive MACD bearish divergence. So how do you short? How do you long? Doesn't mean they're all going to work, but how do you take these high probability plays? Multiple confluences. If you are watching the double top, then that also probably means, and if you're gearing up for a possible short, that also probably means you're looking at indicators, right? You're looking at MACD. Had you been looking at MACD here, so you had this bearish cross here, then you had a huge bounce. That happens all the time. You can have, so these are lagging indicators. You can have a bearish cross, and then you could have a massive whipsaw up. I've seen extremely dramatic things before, but what you're actually going to be looking for is the rejection of that other signal, right? So you don't want to see a bearish cross and then above the orange or whatever your MACD is. Bearish cross, went back up. Bearish cross, did a dead cat bounce for that second top. Very clear rejection here. But most importantly, guys, I didn't even look at MACD before making this, like before wanting to set up this video. Nice high right here, lower high, but both of these highs on the price action on the chart are identical. So we went from a 10 out of 10 short to like a 100 out of 10, and I'm not even exaggerating. This is the perfect short. You have divergences from stock RSI. Pretty much pull up any indicator, you know. I used to use OBV a lot. This is a really good one, OBV traffic lights. Interesting. So you didn't have bearish divergence on OBV. Sometimes you do. So there was something in the background. There was something in volume that could have actually supported a breakout. And there was something in these other indicators that told you it doesn't support a breakout. By the way, you could throw in this OBV traffic lights or any other OBV ones as extra confluence to go short. So, but let's move on here. You have your double top. You're a genius if you short it up here. Genius, genius, genius. But that's not the play. The perfect short is, if you guys understand how this stuff works, you grab it from the top to that pivot low. So you're at minus 17.25%. The measured move is minus 17.25%, breaking a line. Let's put our line. Let's grab the magnet. Breaking that neckline. Okay. I'm going to get rid of OBVWAP for a second just to clean up this chart. Let's do it manually. And you say this was a significant top that reached the bottom. So let's say you were monitoring this. I want to see a double top. Grab a few wicks in there. I would have done something like that. And I probably would have put a level, because this is this is all fun and games in hindsight. But let's talk about a real trade. This is a significant level. Here we go. You have your second top. Had you had this level in mind, the candle clearly breached and jumped. This looks like a pre-market massive dip and a huge jump, right? So it's a little bit scary. So now you're monitoring this level as a bear. Just picture you're a bear. If you would have shorted here, perfect. But most of us are not that good. However, risk reward tells you this was the short because your stop out's so easy. Let's say you give yourself 2% wiggle room on the underline. Your stop out is very, very simple, and you're just absolutely printing money. And we'll talk about that option strategy that I recommend in a second. This is what I came here to show you, is that you have all of this set up. By the way, you have a rejection at this level. You have all of this set up. Let's say you have something as simple as a 21 EMA or this TPTF EMA. This is the short. Now, you have a breakdown here. You could have jumped back up to this level. It did try, and it failed. Every single short entry you will ever take, by the time that you want to take it, you're going to go red 80% of the time for a little bit. Similar with long setups, but there's something about short setups. Those dead cat bounces, those moves can be a little bit vicious, right? So this is what I would do. I did it on HIMS. I did it on T-Mobile. I've done it on a few. I hate to say that I'm watching A-Lab. If anyone wants to, yes, huge bull of A-Lab. I'm watching it. I'm beginning my journey of watching it for a short. I think in the same way that something is a laggard, it's a laggard in having been so bullish. That does not mean it's ready for a short, but maybe we can take a look at that chart afterwards. So how do you work this here? Let's say you would have bought in at a very, very poor point, and that's why I'm going to go into the actual strategy. Sorry, I don't use this thing enough. Short position. Let's be realistic here. Let's go into the 4 hour. Definitely want to go. Oh, this 4 hours so perfect. 4 hours so perfect. I actually found the setup. So, and this is the beauty. Check your daily chart, but then check your 4 hour chart, right? Your setup right here is, I would have done 2 positions right here. Again, I'll go into how I would have traded options in a second. I would have done 2 here. I would have said, I'm gonna pretend that it wasn't the world's greatest trade at first. This massive candle down. Let's say you want to take the risk and say, I'm gonna short here. Okay. and I'm going to short. I eventually think that this is going to end up being a double top that breaks to the measured move. So I'm going to lay this out. What the hell happened to the stop loss? Sorry, I don't use these tools enough. Does anyone know how to... Hold on. Where is the stop loss? Am I not on the right tool? I'm sorry, guys. Oh, my bad. My bad. Hold on. My bad. Here we go. So let's say I got a really bad entry here. There we go. But I know I have a measured move down to here, 17.84%. I'm going to say this would be the sweetest one at the top of this level to be nice and conservative. You know that options can get very, very damaged. So if you took a bad entry, you're going to say, you know what, I'm out here. But if you're a real big short seller, your stop is probably above this candle. But let's just go here and let's give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room. Remember, this box is drawn from these top wicks, these structural candles. I know this is getting a little bit complex, but it's actually like really easy. If anyone has any questions, let me know. So notice how within your stop zone, it got a little bit scary, right? I would have doubled down after this candle rejected. I promise you I would have, had I been monitoring this. So I would have had my moving averages. And like once this candle rejected, maybe I would have doubled down the next day and see what happens. But you had about anywhere from 2 to 3 days of the trade kind of beginning, right? Now, your new trade, I want to get rid of this. I kind of hate these boxes. Your new trade is not wanting to breach this TPTF MA. How about, you know, you're a fan of just a basic super trend. Let's do like a 1.5. Even that's too much. You know, you want to be precise here. Get like, you know, grab a super trend. Grab something ATR based, right? ATRs are used for stop losses all the time. So for instance, if you were trying to be a cowboy here and you had an ATR stop loss, you're stopped out here. So you're still green, you're still green. This, by the way, with this ATR at 1.2, this was your bear signal. Just like I said, imagine you would have caught the bottom. Maybe you could have done a starter, assuming core is just completely tanked, or it's going to start doing these dead cat bounces and start resisting. But the point is you have this double top to work with. We're going through different levels of the perfect trade. We breached this zone. Pull up a super trend, pull up moving averages, whatever it is you want to do. Let me see what Ichimoku Cloud was doing at the time. Yeah, not the best trade with an Ichimoku Cloud. That could have gotten you out of it for a second. If you were looking at this on the 4 hour, you're like, oh, it's going to bounce off this support. There's always going to be something that's, you know, going to get you out of something, right? HMAs are incredible. Look at that. That's the HMA 21. HMAs are phenomenal. By the way, we're at regular trading hours. We're not extended. Another fantastic thing to use here. You know, you want to be precise. Shorting can be scary, right? So now how do you short this? Remember I was saying you bought this entry, then maybe you double down or whatever. You have multiple confluences. You have confluences from your oscillators, right? You want to continue seeing this red. You want to continue seeing MACD bearish. It's a very, very, very good short. So what do? This is what you do. Grab, depending on the strike, depending on how Gamma looked at the time, depending on a few things. I'm just going to be extra conservative here. I'm going to grab the top of these candles. I'm going to go in the money at 29 or 30 strike. And I'm going to give myself 2 months. Okay? You could buy all the weekly puts you want. You can, be a hero and you're an absolute genius, but this is a top-notch trade, and you don't want to get wrecked. You want it to work. You don't want to get scared out. You want to be able to go take a walk in the park, go to your job, do whatever it is you want to do and not be scared. You're going to set your alerts for your stop losses. But what are you doing? You're taking a even possibly a 28 put, but let's just say 29 or 30, and then you're going to sell a put worth less. You're going to create a put spread. Why are you creating a put spread? Because you want to size into this position. You want to have a decent size. Let's say on average you take $800 positions. This is a $1,500 one, because it's so good. Again, hindsight is 2020. But you want to be conservative about it, right? You want your strikes to not be outlandish. You could take lottos. Go ahead and take a 25p. You go for it. I did the same thing with T-Mobile, and I think I got like 80% off a lotto 2 days later, and I got out, and then it bounced, right? But I stayed in my longer term one. Take all the lottos you want. Check your GEX levels. Check options flow. Check whatever it is you need to check. But you want to go here 29. Like, look for a strike at the top of the candles. You can go very conservative up to 31, but turn it into a put spread, right? A long bearish put spread. If anyone has any questions about that, I can definitely help with that. But you go 2 months out. Where were we out here at here? So June. Imagine you're going to August 30p, right? And then you're going to sell puts against it. And what is that going to do? This chop right here, I promise you, for a few days, like, you're always green, because depending on your entry. But if you get a naked put, depending on the IV, a million things you got to look into, and we have to wear a million hats here. But for a quality trade like this, you want to give yourself some time. And if I had to guess, those put spreads, even upon taking partials, so this is pretty obvious, right, guys? The neckline, you're out of half your position. This is where it would bounce if you're wrong. I'll be 100% honest. I'm probably out. The fact that the trade works so well, I am probably out, unless I gave myself 3 months, because I don't mess around with the short trades. Like, they need to be tactical. You're probably thinking, why the hell aren't you so tactical on the longs? You'd be surprised I am tactical on the longs. It's just certain trades just don't work out, right? But there's something about short setups. It's like, once all these things happen, it is going down. It's going down. I don't know any other way to explain it. You got that double top. You got the breach here. You just don't know. This was pretty fast, but you don't know if this right here is actually going to take a whole nother month to pan out. So if you give yourself 2 months time, and you create a put spread, that theta decay, it's just going to be nice and chill. This will assassinate any traditional short that you can think of. And this will be a much better play, and the only thing that might compete are one of these 2x inverse things that have been working out really well. I bought MUZ at the top and I sold it like an idiot, but I did have a thesis, but it wasn't as good as this one, right? Yeah, try this HMA once it blows through the HMA on the 4 hour. It's like an extra conviction. It added as resistance. Maybe wait for this to fully turn. If anyone wants this indicator, Whole Suite by In Silico, or watch my indicator video. Go 21. 34 is also fire for extra confirmation. See how it could have still stayed alive. Let's see what it looked like on the daily. Yeah, I mean, by the time these candles breach, like this, just the momentum of this trade in general was kind of over. But they work really well on lower time frames. They start getting choppy because they're fast, But starting at the 4 hour, they're really, really solid. If you had been short here, you were out on the jump of this 4 hour one. Always back test a ticker and how it does with an indicator. Get to learn how it moves. But this whole setup, especially in the break of that TPTF MA, you're protected. Your stop. You're giving yourself some wiggle room. You're giving yourself some time. You're in a spread to not mess around with data decay. Now, some of you guys have cash accounts. If you have to do it, just get in the just get a high strike price put 2 months out, but just monitor it like a hawk. That's all. You're gonna get more gains out of it, duh, but it's gonna be more expensive. You get to offset your costs with a spread. And think about not having a cash account, especially cash accounts are kind of pointless now, right, with all the new rules for day trading, although IBKR has not adopted that rule. Not really sure why. But yeah, so this is the perfect setup. Now let's get rid of all these indicators and just finalize this for a second, and I'm going to show you exactly what happened. This is not all of them are going to play out this well, but the fact that it actually went down to the measured move is just phenomenal. Double bottoms and double tops are just extremely, extremely solid. I've been doing this long enough where you guys see me post cup and handles, but I'm not posting as many cup and handles. They fail all the time. That's just the honest truth. Falling wedges are great. Bull flags are great. Sorry, I know this is all about cores, but I just wanted to show you this real quick. So this is one of my worst trades of all time. And this is one of these things where I say worst trade of all time because I would consider this, it was just so perfect until it wasn't. So there's not a lot you can do about that. It's a risk reward game. I did stop myself out here, but the stop out is pathetic because I can't stop myself out the next day with a move like this. It was just so dramatic. But everything was looking good for VECO. I mean, everything was looking good. As a matter of fact, like the extra confluence I had was that capitulation volume where it seemed like it was over. And I was extra patient. I wasn't trying to buy this bottom. Wanted to see some kind of a breakout. It was a very nice daily candle close. And I mean, this thing just, it's very, very sad. The good thing is I was just in shares. I don't think it was ready for options. I didn't really see anything with gamma or anything. But, perfect patterns and all that, like, they're still going to have a 25%, 30% failure rate, but take enough of them and they will win, right? So we'll see how Google plays out. We'll see how others play out in that regard. It's just sad because I was also talking about the stock way before, so I would still be green. And I kind of watched this go up and said, if this does a pullback to how I want it, I was patient on it and I was not rewarded for being patient on it. It sucks, but it happens. You're gonna have some bad trades that were kind of perfect looking trades. So the double top. So the idea is if this is your neckline, and by the way, very significant neckline, because even if you didn't know how to draw a double top, these would have been resistance zones, right? So, in the 7-star Mike world of charting, he would have, if anyone asked about cores, he would have literally sent you this chart, right? With this level right here. He would have said, you want to wait for a bounce, right? And then you had a breakdown. By here, it's too late, in my opinion. This is not your edge. This is your confirmation, but you can get a nasty fake out here. Or if you were lucky enough to catch the top of this candle, but this could just be an undercut of a very key level and then bounce back up. I think your short was here thinking about the full double top measured move and already getting out of half position at the neckline, and your runners are the break of the neckline down to the measured move. So just to wrap this up, if we want to invert this and think of it as a double bottom, you had a successful trade here. Pull up another chart, invert it, and also watch it in that way. I'm just going to wrap this up with HIMS. My HIMS chart is very, very messy. Sorry. And all my old drawings are gone, obviously. But when you love a stock enough, you can actually properly short it. Whoops. It's inverted, right? Yeah. Yeah, if there's a stock you've been so bullish on and it hasn't been working out, I'm definitely net green on HIMS because I've been trading HIMS for a while. But I've taken a few L's, right? Maybe 4 out of 6 trades, something like 40% were not great and the 60% were spectacular. Not going to pretend I remember exactly. Yeah, I do remember exactly the trade. This was another one, and I was posting about this on X. You can go check all the receipts, the whole journey. I was telling everyone, unfortunately, HIMS is a 10 out of 10 trade. It's sad. I only took 50% on it because I don't want to short HIMS. Love the company, so I didn't want to short HIMS. But look at all that I missed. I watched this and I said, when it comes around here and I see a rejection, 100% I'm short. And so I was short, and I think we came down to only like around here, and I was already out. It was phenomenal because you had this zone turned resistance, but this was the one I was trying to tell people, like, guys, this is a 10 out of 10. So pay attention if I'm ever saying there's a 10 out of 10 short. You're going to see short projections like my Bitfarm, my Keel one. That doesn't mean that plays out, but that's a projection, right? This one, I thought HIMS was going to go a little higher. Thought HIMS could have gone all the way up to here. This would have been super, super, super high risk reward one, and it didn't. I was watching these wicks. Once I started seeing this candle do this, I think I started buying puts, and I was already out on a few of them. It was just like such easy money. But, you had a rising pennant, rising triangle, bear pennant into previous support, turned resistance, didn't even try to climb up here. You had oscillators at the time. Look, this oscillator was off. But I think I was looking at... Yes. I was still monitoring the weekly. Let me get this out of here. I don't really use it that much. Well, actually... Damn, look how good the OB was on this. If you guys want to take a look at it, OBV traffic lights. I used to use it a long time ago. It's really good. Because it's a little bit more volume based, right? More on balance volume. This was really good on this trade. But yeah, the weekly, I had every signal in the book. Once we breached this 50 on the weekly, I was also like, yeah, time to call it. What the hell just happened there? That was weird. I don't know if anyone saw that glitch. So yeah, a few of the weekly oscillators kept me bearish, and I think I had some measured moves down, and I think I had some Elliott wave counts, which I don't usually do. I had Elliott wave counts going down. So I had every short trade is going to be different. I had, look, I can already kind of visually see it, that it played out. Oh, I think we were also on a key all-time fib. Yeah, we were at the 1618 from the lows, which was crazy to me that it came down to the 1414, came up to the 1618, breached it just by a little bit, and then came back down. That was another short trigger, the breach of the 1618 once again, another bearish trigger. But what I also had, wrapping up here, guys, I had something, might have not been the most proper thing, but I was just looking at the potential wave count as well, and I think I had something like this. Yes, you can do counts to the bottom. Duh. No, I think it was worse than this. Yeah, I definitely think. Yeah, that was not the. No, I think I got way more dramatic with it, where this was just the 1-2. It's probably not the best wave count in the world, but I had something. It might have been a little bit more local. If I find it on X, I'll send it. But it is crucial. You can always jump into the 4 hour as well. You know what it was? Is that we did a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then we continued doing ABCs. So when something's really really bearish like that, like this can go on forever. So now you have to look at it. Let's say you were inverted. A, B. Yeah, I mean it never did the C. So I think the counts were a little funky, or maybe I had like a different count. But just in general, sometimes your actual counts don't have to be accurate, but they're essentially swings, right? Market structure swings that are not um, falling into each other. The 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 doesn't cross these waves, right? So you could have just gone out on the 5 there, which I think is why I ended up leaving. I didn't expect it to maybe go lower. I thought maybe we could come down to a 5 of sorts, um, and then there's one more way to use fibs here. Kind of gone over this a few times, but so for the real bears in the house, they probably a lot of like heavy duty. Well, I did always have this support. This is always here. You can check the receipts. So there were so many confluences for HIMS to come down. It's kind of wild. But let's say you kind of did like an ABC type situation or whatever. Drawing that fib from 0 to 1 on these swings. And if you really wanted to go short, like you were still in this trade even on this bounce, because your move is to the 1618, and it seems very clear to me right now that had you drawn that, shit, man, this thing kept going. Him's got freaking wrecked, because I think it was like one thing after another thing. Like it could have gone down all the way down to that 3618. But there's other confluences, right? Like I was looking at all-time fibs. 786 is solid on these all-time fibs. Of course, 618. And guess where we stopped? I think I did a post about that. Absolutely miraculous, right? Look at that 0.5. So this was that big support that I was watching, and once it breached, it's like, well, at that point you're going down to the 0.5. Had you used a VWAPs at the time from this key level, you would have had this situation going on. So remember I was shorting up here? Technically speaking, there was absolutely no reason to ever get out of this short. Like, honestly. Like, breaching that AVWAP from all the way down there after HIMS does such a bullish move. I mean, HIMS could have gone into an absolutely insane bear market. And it didn't, because it's HIMS, right? This was just completely overdone. And they have the fundamentals to back it, and the potential growth. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? HIMS is probably just getting started in its journey back. I'm not saying it rallies up hardcore, next week. I do like the gamma. I've been watching it, but it's in this new level where it's starting to flip that old AVWAP. So technically, if you're a long-term swing trader, you're not even watching HIMS until here. And my old trend line, this trend line's messed up. Sorry, guys. Wow. My trend lines are completely messed up, so I'm going to delete them. This happens every now and then. Um, the trend line to watch was always this one. Sorry. It's always something like this. I think I had one of these up for a while. Oh, wow. I'm always in log. Someone's messing with my stuff. No wonder Hims was looking a little funky to me. I'm a logarithmic guy. At some point I had some trend line here, and I had another one here coming up on this trend. So we broke that first one. We broke back above that first one. This is the parabolic trend that we broke, by the way. Another indication of a perfect short. Hims was scary, scary good. You know, in my journey in trading, when I see things like this on stocks that I love, this kind of stuff can change your life. As far as your other trades could be small, but this situation right here, giving yourself, let's say, 6 months, which would have been adequate time, and then just trimming along the way, there was every single confluence in the book to short Hims. So, I'm gonna attempt to find other ones, but to wrap this up, there's nothing bearish about ALAB. I'm just beginning my journey of monitoring it, right? So there's a difference. This candle's telling me something. It hit the 1618. I always had this trend line up. And so that's the thing about successful shorting, is that this is one of my most successful longs of all time. I didn't hold all the way to the top. I always figured there would be a pullback like this and come back up. It didn't do that. So at some point, it's got to pull back. At some point, it's got to pull back. Does it pull back tomorrow, next week? I don't know. But, I'm starting my journey watching it, watching gamma levels on it. Let's take a look at some oscillators. You already have confirmation on the daily, but you can choose to treat this as a really, really good short setup and say, well, the weekly, the 3-day, still a little bit bearish. Still bullish, but it's turning over at oversold levels. Look what happened the last time it turned over. I don't think ALAB is a new company now. I don't think it's in for this journey, just to be very clear. Anything's possible, but I don't think it's in for this journey. I think it's in for a bullish pullback. So what I'm going to be looking at for now is, for these kind of parabolic, really bullish stocks, these EMA clouds have been really good. Yep. So I'm starting to get to know this pretty well. At the end of the day, ALAB can just keep going up forever and ever, right? On these clouds. So there is no confirmation. It's starting that kind of possible distribution pattern, but it's not like it's not even a 6 out of 10 short. It's not even a 4 out of 10 short. But because it's overextended and I've followed its journey, and within this channel, it hit the channel. It's truly miraculous that it hit my, just look at this, guys. Look at this. Broke below the 1618. Couple of things I'm watching. Yeah, got a little head and shoulders is possible. But a couple of things I'm watching is, what if we just get a double top, right? So let's say, set an alert up here. I've seen a few things moving around of like 500, 500C for longer term. So that could go. That could hit. So now I'm going to set an alert, left shoulder. Couple of them. Okay. I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to keep looking at oscillators. I'm going to look at gamma. 4 hour hasn't even really turned bearish. See, I wouldn't have shorted here. For a stock like this, it's just still not good enough. This bounce is going to happen to you. For that, you shorted at the 1618. got crushed a little bit for a second, and you're still printing. Like you're for that, you would have just said, "Hey, I'm starting at the 1618, and I'm going to see what the journey is here." But it can easily come back up, and now you're at a loss. So I still don't see like how crazy that trade could be. Even on the 1 hour, these EMAs haven't done full crossovers. There's just, again, there's nothing bearish about it, but could be starting off. So if the memory play, if the AI play just ain't it for a little while, like A-Lab is going to be my go-to. Just know that. I love this company. I love this stock, but it's going to be my go-to. I think we'll see how well this plays out. If things start turning south for the AI play, it's just, to me, a no-brainer where A-Lab's going. It's going this full-on change of character, break of structure level. That's where it's going if this plays out. I'm going to already draw a VWAPs. There you go. Again, sometimes you don't need indicators, right? All you need is levels. These indicators are going to match with your levels if you know what to look out for. A break of these EMAs, this thing is sending down. It's not going to stop at the 1414. That I can pretty much promise you. That I would be very confident in, that there's no reason for this to come to the 1414 to make the next journey. Now we're going to use Elliott Wave. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this. I'm going to find quick ones. This one's a little tricky. Bear with me here. I'm going to give it the world's smallest 1-2 while I track things. That's a 5. I might have messed certain things up, but I do believe that that's a wave 5. 5 waves, but you still technically don't have confirmation until you break certain structure, right? But I do think 5 waves were put in. And so now what's going to happen? You're going to do an ABC. So here's what I'm going to monitor now. Again, do not short A-Lab. I'm watching things. Oh, sorry, I didn't see Nick's comment. Would need to see a daily or weekly high or low, right? Oh yeah, that would be another classic, just using market structure. But this, I'm just going to show you what I'm doing for now. It's just sad because like I saw short potential for Nokia, but it wasn't perfect. And it's one of my largest shares positions, so like a hedge would have been nice. I don't really do covered calls, but Nokia was just screaming for covered calls, to be honest. Like you just got to be realistic sometimes with this stuff, and then you got to also look at the rest of the sector. You got to look at the names, go into the SMHs, the SOXs, do all that stuff. If anyone wants to do a full analysis on that, I'm happy to do it. But so here's what I'm watching next. Of course, all my videos turn long, right? Because I go from why cores was the perfect short setup to now analyzing a bunch of tickers. But so I'm gonna set my 1 here, right? And I'm gonna assume, so we're starting to find some confluences all the way down to the 1618. Gets us somewhat close to that 1272 AVWAP, slow EMAs, and I believe, was it the weekly EMAs? You have a few confluences here, right? So now I'm going to draw an AVWAP from the highs. Let's see how many times this rejects. If it blows through, is it going to go to the 272? Is it going to go to the 382 and reject? What's it going to do? If it blows through the 272, the 1618, the next thing I'm going to look at is it a double top? There's so many boxes to check here because I'm not interested in scalping this short. I'm not interested in shorting something that is phenomenal and has had so much strength. I'm interested in A plus 10 out of 10 short setup. And so it's hitting the beginnings of my checklist, which is it went to my full-blown long-term projection. If you go on my X and me saying where it's going short-term, it lands somewhere around here. and I actually just so happened to write on X, close to 1% off. I wrote something like, that's probably enough for now, on the ALAB trade, and we have pulled back since then. Now, again, this thing could just go up and up and up and do some MU like stuff, but it has hit my radar because it went to where I wanted it to go, and it would not be unreasonable or even bearish for it to come back down, because other sectors, capital would rotate, other sectors would get hit with it, and there will be no better feeling than imagine shorting at some point, very lightly, nothing crazy, but imagine shorting at some point on ALAB here and being able to successfully catch the SR flip, right? Being able to successfully catch it coming down to the AVWAP, to the weekly EMAs. And this is an all-time one. Let's bring it down to here. Yeah, there's a huge point of control there, which is obvious because it chopped around for so long. So more locally, yeah, that kind of sucks. By the time it would land up here, it's kind of in no man's land in volume territory. So that's not very good. This is turning me off from the short trade a little bit, this 350. It's turning me off a little bit. I'd probably have to like really go into gamma levels and see what the potential is. But if we came back a few months from now and ALAB was down here, I would be like, well, yeah, no shit. So I guess I'll just wrap it up with that, where if you're just going into something blind and you want like a hedge or whatever, like I think ALAB right here is probably a good, still high risk reward trade to come down here, or selling puts down here, right, which are not going to be worth too much, but selling puts down here to eventually get assigned on some shares if you're into that kind of stuff. But that is what I'm looking at. And then final thing that you could do, just the classic, is just your classic trend lines. Where are we in the journey of breaking a trend line? Because you know this thing has a mighty trend line. We have broken it. Doesn't mean everything, but we have broken it. Let's get this EMA out. A lot of EMAs, a lot of these kinds of moving average like things are going to show you that. Something similar to a trend line break and something like a super trend, right? Or, you know, I have my own, but, you know, that might not mean much, right? But what about a 3-day? Could be another short signal. Your 3-day here, you got chopped up for like a week to 2 weeks, and this ended up being a really successful trade. So maybe a break of the 3-day super trend would be successful. All right, guys, thanks for joining. Hope you learned something with cores. I love doing these types of videos because I learn even more myself, and we can analyze other stocks, see where they're at in their journey, and we're gonna make some phenomenal trades this year, and rotate sectors properly and make money. That I'll promise you. So I'll see you guys in the chat. Appreciate all of you. Have a great Sunday.